I am back with another chapter of Will Smith's autobiography, simply entitled Will. Chapter 11 is called Adaptation. JL refused to come to LA. The whole TV thing was disconcerting to him. It was all happening too fast. It was out of left field and outside his expertise. I'd been to Quincy Jones' birthday party, and the next day I had a TV show. There was no plan, no strategy, and we were all still trying to recover from the catastrophic financial and creative collapse of DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And now I wanted JL to pack up everything and move to Los Angeles because Quincy Jones is an alchemist. Tanya and I had gotten a new apartment in Burbank, walking distance to NBC. My full focus was clearly now on television. That's his Gemini ascendant, and making this pilot episode hot. So his Gemini ascendant is in sextile with his Aries North Node. So that's him trying to make that pilot episode hot. And it did turn out to be hot. Dude, you need to be in the studio doing what you do, JL implored. Jay, I'm telling you, our future is out here. Our music shit is dead. Well, that's not true, but whatever you need me for, I can do it from Philly. Jay, you don't understand. You have to be out here. It's not scheduled meetings and structured like that. People make decisions at birthday parties and in fucking diners. JL knows me as well as anybody on this earth. He saw me and sometimes still sees me as an impetuous artist who needs to be protected from myself. That's his sun, opposition, Chiron, and the North Node. He saw himself as the final checkpoint of sanity, keeping Will from driving us all off a cliff. JL couldn't stomach the uncertainty and the tornado of change that he felt was endangering our recovery. Omar moved immediately. Charlie came out every week, just as a piece of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air trivia. In the opening credits of the show, when I get in one little fight and my mom got scared, the person I get into one little fight with, the guy who is spinning me around and precipitating my departure for California, that's Charlie Mack. I figured if I could convince Jeff to come to LA, then JL would see that all of us were out here. So without even telling Jeff, I went to the producers at NBC and pitched them a character for him to play on the show. I told them he was my music partner and that he was a bigger star in the hip hop community than I was. Our fans would go crazy if they saw Jeff on the show. Obviously, they were worried about adding yet another Philly homeboy who had zero acting experience into a primetime sitcom. But this became my second Fresh Prince flex. They reluctantly agreed to test him in 6 episodes or a quarter of the first season. Excited, I hit Jeff to tell him the news. Oh man, thanks, he said, but I'm not really feeling that TV acting stuff. That's you. I just want to do music. I was dumbstruck. Jeff, you could do music in LA. They got studios out here like we got liquor stores and churches. Plus, they're offering you 10 grand per episode. That's easy money, man. Silence. Jeff, I'm just not feeling it, man. That LA shit's not me. I'm a Philly boy. I wanted to scream. What the fuck are you talking about? You are broke. You are back in your mom's basement. You don't have a choice. But instead, I just said, okay, I'll holler at you later. Change can be scary, but it's utterly unavoidable. In fact, impermanence is the only thing you can truly rely on. If you are unwilling or unable to pivot and adapt to the incessant fluctuating tides of life, you will not enjoy being here. Sometimes people try to play the cards that they wish they had instead of playing the hand they've been dealt. The capacity to adjust and improvise is arguably the single most critical human ability. There's a Buddhist parable that has guided me through many a perilous transition. A man is standing on the banks of a treacherous, raging river. It's rainy season. If he can't get to the other side, he's done. He quickly builds a raft, and uses it to safely cross the river. In joyous relief, he high-fives himself, lifts the raft, and heads towards the forest. But as he attempts to make his way through the dense tree cover, the raft is banging and knocking into trees and becoming entangled in vines, preventing him from moving forward. He only has one chance for survival. He must leave the raft behind. The vessel that saved his life yesterday is the same one that will kill him today if he doesn't let it go. The raft represents our outmoded ideas and old ways of thinking that no longer serve us. For example, the same angry, aggressive persona you cultivated as a child to protect yourself from bullies and predators will now destroy every relationship you have if you're unwilling to let it go. Things can be perfectly useful and absolutely necessary during certain periods of our lives, but a time will come when we must put them aside or die. Simply put, if we don't adapt, we become extinct. I saw JL's and Jeff's choice to stay in Philly as a death sentence for both of them, but I also knew that I wouldn't allow it. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was behind the 8 ball from the beginning. A show of this size would usually have been greenlit 9 months earlier. Because of the truncated, damn near impossible shooting schedule, decisions were having to be made in real time across the spectrum of the entire production. In JL's absence, Benny Medina stepped up in a managerial capacity. He became the contact for all things Will Smith. Benny knew what he was doing and he knew how to get things done, but my heart hurt being in LA without JL and Jeff. I had to get them out here, so I threw up a Hail Mary at the buzzer. I told JL that I would record another album if he agreed to spend 1 week out of every month in LA. At the time, I didn't see music as any major part of my future, but I didn't tell him that. I just needed him in LA. Now I had convinced Jeff. Look, man, just do 3 episodes. If you hate it, you only got 3 to go. If you love it, you can get a spot out here and we'll go back to the producers and get you more. And we can record. The worst case scenario, you clear 60 grand for being on a network television show, and at minimum, more pussy. I wasn't entirely sure which part of that argument sold Jeff, but I didn't care. He was coming. Fresh Prince trivia moment. Jeff went on to become one of the most beloved characters on the show, and he loved it. His signature comedic bit was Uncle Phil throwing him out of the house. During the shooting of the pilot episode, no one knew that this bit would catch on, so we only had one shot of Jeff flying out of the house. The interior of the Bel-Air mansion and the exterior are 2 different locations, and we only had a 1-day shoot at the exterior location. So we had to use the same shot of Jeff being thrown out over and over. Therefore, anytime you see Jeff enter with the brown and white Aztec pattern shirt, you know that he'll be thrown out in that scene. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air premiered on September 10th, 1990, and was an immediate success, becoming the highest rated debut show of that season. That meant there were definitely going to be more seasons. So transit-wise, on September 10th, 1990, which was the premiere of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, transit in Chiron was in Cancer in his 3rd house. That's pointed to his new TV family. And it was in trine with Neptune and Scorpio. So the Neptune influence is representing his entry into Hollywood. Also, the transiting North Node was making a sesqui-square with his Jupiter in Virgo. And that points to the learning curve that he had to overcome with respect to acting, which he'll get into a little bit later. Opportunities were heating up, but despite it all, JL was still skeptical. Even a year later and tens of millions of weekly viewers, JL kept his bedroom at his mother's house in Philly. I guess in his defense, it was barely a year ago that he had seen me burn through $3 million, not pay a single dime to the IRS, collapse DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince over chicken fingers and rum punches, and then blithely moved to LA to become a TV star. When I put it like that, I guess it's amazing that he still took my calls. But even though he was denying it, it was undeniable. The show was a hit, the iron was hot, and it was time to strike. I was hungry, focused, and excited about the new life I was being blessed to undertake. But my personal and professional crash and burn had taught me a harsh, universal lesson. Nothing lasts forever. Everything rises and falls, no matter how hot the summer gets. The winter is inevitable. I promised myself I would never get caught sleeping again, that during the good times, I would plant and nurture the seeds of the next thing. And if I was truly wise and attuned to the movements of the industry, I would be able to time the harvest of the next thing impeccably, just before the death of the old thing. In the same way that my music career was scorching hot, then icy cold, I knew the same thing would one day happen in TV. I was about to be on blaze, but one day I knew I'd be cold again. I asked myself, after television, what would be my next thing? There was only one answer: movies. That's his moon conjoined to Neptune. But I also made a deeper, more problematic conclusion that love and relationships were also subject to the universal law of impermanence. I vowed to never get caught without my eye on my next love. My heart had been crushed, and I was certain that it would happen again. That's his fifth house sun conjoined to the South Node, and then opposing Chiron. I knew there would be a blissful springtime meeting, a hot summer whirlwind, a melancholy fall, and then an icy winter death. I decided that my only emotional defense against this brutal cosmic certainty was to outcreate the cycle of destruction. In my mind, I knew I had to be like Tarzan, catching the next vine just as I let go of the old one. If I could grab the new thing while simultaneously releasing the dying thing, I could avoid and escape the harshest elements of winter and indefinitely sustain the vibrance of springtime bliss. So let me just read that one statement again. If I could grab the new thing while simultaneously releasing the dying thing, that right there is his Saturn forming a quincunx with his moon and Neptune, but then also Saturn forming a quincunx with his Pluto. Saturn in Aries is representing the new thing. Pluto is representing the dying thing. And his moon in Scorpio, Neptune in Scorpio is representing the dying thing as well. Sitcom television is the individual, undisputed greatest job on earth. So him saying that, that's his ascendant being in trine with his midheaven. A sitcom work week was 5 days to produce one episode. Monday was the table read. Actors, producers, writers sit around a table and read the script aloud. Everybody would give notes, and overnight, the writers would deliver a new draft. Tuesday and Wednesday were playtime, the actors on stage trying to breathe life into the words. This was the part that made sitcom television the best job. We got paid to laugh, joke, play, create, debate, grow, and love on each other. At the end of each day, we would go and do a run through for the writers and show them what we had come up with. And Tuesday and Wednesday night, they would make adjustments, improving the script. Thursday was a technical run through, lights, sound, cameras, all figuring out how they would cover the action of the scenes. And then Friday, the live in-studio audience. Friday nights on the set of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air were like being at the hottest club in the city. Everybody who was anybody made their way to our tapings. The top comedians on the mic, the most gorgeous Hollywood starlets, professional athletes, musicians, a who's who of the flyest of the fly. That right there, that's his ascendant and South Node forming trines with, his ascendant forming trines with his Sun and South Node in the fifth house. And then there was our unique competitive advantage. Everybody in our cast could sing and dance. So between scenes, Alfonso would perform Michael Jackson. Joe Marcel would sing some obscure, hilarious British show tune. James Avery would demonstrate all the old school dances. Janet Hubert-Witten was an Alvin Ailey trained dancer and a Juilliard trained actor and singer. Even Tatiana, at 11 years old, was jumping in the game. And then, as if all that wasn't enough to send the studio audience into hysteria, we dropped our nuke. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince would perform live every Friday night. Our between scene moments were as iconic as anything we ever put on camera. This was heaven, a new family, a new home, a new life. And that's very much representative of that transit I spoke of, Chiron trine Neptune in his chart. The message read, I need a cut of that Will Smith business. That's his moon conjoined to Neptune in Scorpio. Somebody's trying to steal his money. JL received this message from an infamous LA gangbanger with a reputation for shakedowns, violent extortion, and charging fees for protection. JL decided not to respond. We were no strangers to violence and attempted intimidation. We had guys in Philly who were more than prepared to make trips to handle things if we needed it. But LA was different. There was a brazenness and pervasiveness that made us feel uncertain. In Philly, you could easily discern the dangerous areas and avoid them. You knew if the trash wasn't getting picked up, if there were cars parked on the sidewalk, abandoned buildings on the same block as family homes, you had to be careful in that neighborhood. And of course, the projects. You knew what that was. But in LA, the worst neighborhoods would have green grass and palm trees. Carjackings in broad daylight were common. You could get caught slipping anywhere. We couldn't work out where to drive or what to wear. It all felt dangerously confusing. None of us carried guns in Philly. All of us carried guns in LA. There were now 5 messages for JL. I need a cut of that Will Smith business. You should probably respond. Again, his moon is ruling the second house and it's conjoined to Neptune and Scorpio. So that's someone trying to shake him down for money. We had heard the stories about this dude. He would just take people's money, force them to sign over their publishing, strong-arming people throughout the industry. We were new to LA and we did not want trouble. But if trouble wanted us, we were right here. JL decided to take the call. This is James Lassiter. How can I help you? You a hard man to get in touch with, the dude said. I'm thinking I need to get into that Will Smith business. Okay, JL responded, taking a pause to measure his next move. I think we can do that. Good, the dude said. But I have a partner, JL interjected. I don't make the final decision. You'll need to speak with him. Okay, let's set that up. Absolutely, immediately. My partner works at the Federal Bureau of Investigation, JL said evenly. I'll set the call. And any deal that you and him come up with, I'm down for it. We never heard from him again. A threat is one thing, violence is something else. But when you grow up in violent environments, your mind adapts to perceived threats everywhere. You reason that you cannot afford to get caught slipping even once. You begin to respond to a perceived threat and to actual violence equally, even though they're very different things. There's an old adage, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. It was a Wednesday. We were struggling on set, trying to make a scene work. We all felt it. The writing wasn't landing as authentic or funny. So I took it upon myself to begin making changes to the scene. When the producers came down and saw all of the unilateral adjustments I made, that's his moon conjoined to Neptune, forming a quincunx with his Saturn right here. Those are the unilateral adjustments he made to the script with that moon ruling the 3rd house. Let me just read that again. When the producers came down and saw all of the unilateral adjustments I made, they immediately called the leadership at NBCP, the production arm of the network, who demanded that we stop production and come to the office right now. Benny Medina, JL, me, and Jeff Pollock, Benny Medina's television partner, headed to the emergency meeting in the exec's office. There were 2 couches facing each other, with a wooden coffee table in between and a huge etched glass desk at one end. The executive was standing, leaning against his desk, facing the 2 couches. His posture suggested that he was in charge and that he was pissed. We entered and took our seats in front of the headmaster. JL and Benny sat on one couch, and me and Jeff Pollock sat facing them on the other. No formalities, no hellos, no hearing our side of the story. So you're a big man, huh? The executive asked me. I didn't totally understand the question, so I didn't respond. He begins to circle the perimeter of the 2 couches. It felt like the scene from New Jack City when Wesley Snipes was trying to get somebody to explain to him how the Carter got infiltrated. So you can unilaterally change any of the words you want on the network sitcom, huh? At that moment, he's standing behind me. I made eye contact with JL. Is this dude about to swing on me? Him thinking that that's his sun opposition Chiron, also Mercury and Venus opposition Saturn. JL looks at me as if to say, I got my eye on him. If he even flinches, I got you. Hundreds of millions of dollars, multiple partners, a shit ton of fucking veterans of the business. And you get to decide what the words are? At this point, he has circled behind the other couch and behind JL. I give Jay the same look he gave me. If he even flinches, I got you. The executive now circles back behind me. Jeff Pollock, the only white person in our group, begins to explain. I'm not sure you've been brought up to speed on the totality and the complexity of the situation. Well, hold on, Jeff. I know what I need to know, said the executive. Now he's over my right shoulder and his voice is beginning to rise. I've seen this happen 1,000 fucking times. You could be going just as fast as you got here. In front of JL on the coffee table is one of those 5-pound glass snow globes. JL surreptitiously grabs it and sits it in his lap. Our eyes locked. He has a different look this time. Whatever you want to do, homie. I jump up and spin, stepping around the couch, coming face to face with the exec. What the fuck you want to do, bitch? I sneered. That's Will's Mars squaring his ascendant, acting impulsively and him just saying things impulsively, making himself look stupid. JL jumps up, now fully brandishing the snow globe. Hold on, guys, hold on, bidding Medina implores. Back up, Jeff, JL says. Since Jeff came with us, he's confused about JL's tone and energy toward him, especially as all he did was stand up. But JL has a 5-pound snow globe in his hand. So Jeff does as he's told and quickly backs up. Who the fuck is you talking to? I woofed at the executive. In retrospect, I did notice that the man's eyes were completely surrendered and that he had no idea what was happening. He clearly had never been called a bitch in his life and wanted no beef whatsoever. Who the fuck is you squaring off on? I was fully in it now. I could tell he wanted to respond, but he was still struck, trying to unravel the urban Cohen, what the fuck you want to do, bitch. So it seemed like Will has gotten into another role where now he's trying to act like he's some type of thug and he's all tough. But we know this is all an act. This is him thinking that this is how he's expected to respond. I guess because he's from Philly. But this is some bullshit. Will, clearly we've gotten off on the wrong foot here, he said sweetly, his left hand now holding his lower back. You damn right. You standing up screaming on motherfuckers. Sit down when you talk to me. This part almost seems unbelievable. I wonder if he's telling the truth about this part. But Will, he said even more sweetly, I just had major back surgery and the doctor told me that I should stand up when you gonna sit the fuck down when you talk to me, I growled. But Will, the doc, sit the fuck down. He gingerly made his way over to the edge of his big glass desk, delicately placing his hand to brace himself. Wincing, he lowered himself painfully onto the edge of the desk. Benny had seen enough. Okay, we're good. You guys go, he said. JL put the snow globe down. Jeff steps in front of the exec and gestures for JL and I to leave the room. We comply. As we're exiting, we hear Jeff whisper, we are so sorry. What the hell was that? Jeff Pollock is screaming at the top of his lungs in the parking lot. This was the only time I ever heard Jeff raise his voice. Dude looked like he was about to swing on me, I said in my defense. I had heard the term before, people pulling their hair out, but this was the only time I'd ever seen it in real life. Jeff was actually taking 2 fistfuls of his own hair and tugging on them as if he wanted to rip them out of his scalp. A 64-year-old television executive with a bad back was going to swing on you? Me and JL kind of looked at each other. In the office, we had been certain But when you hear it in a parking lot, it feels like it might not hold up in court. Well, why was he standing up, walking around us like he was going to do something? I asked in a last-ditch defense of my perception. What the hell was he going to do? He just had major invasive lumbar decompression surgery. Okay, guys, let's take a break, Benny said compassionately. I gotta call Quincy. Oh shit, Quincy. I immediately rushed to try to call Q first. Quincy's on a call right now. Well, can I have him return? Fuck no. Tell him to hang up with NBC and hear my side of the story first. Sure, that would be great. Thanks, I said. After the worst 30 minutes of my life, he hit me back. I think I fucked up, I blurted. It's fine. People cuss each other out all the time, Quincy said. Just never put your hands on nobody. I talked to him. It's good. What happened on the set? I changed some lines in the script because they was trying to have me say some whack shit. They trying to tell me what a dude from Philly would say. And I'm like, that's not real. Oh, so it was a creative disagreement, Quincy said. I guess that's what they call it in LA, I said. You have a script right there? Quincy asked. Yeah, I got one right here. Okay, what's it say on the cover? I said, confused. The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Right, and who's the Fresh Prince? Quincy barked. Me, I said. Exactly. Don't nobody know what the fuck you're supposed to say better than you. If they could do what you do, they wouldn't have hired you. You say you want to say the way you want to say it. And when somebody has a problem with it, tell them to call me. I was barely 22 years old, and Quincy Jones had just empowered me to say whatever I wanted to say on a network television show. He took my side over producers, writers, executives, advertisers, everybody. He bet on me. Yes, sir, I said. Now that right there, let me just clear this. Him being given full creative control, that's represented by this grand trine in his chart between his ascendant and midheaven, also his ascendant and his sun and south node in Libra, and then his ascendant and south node in Libra are forming a trine with the midheaven. So that grand trine is basically him being given the green light to have full creative control. JL and I were shook up by how thoroughly we had misread the snow globe situation. We were coming from violent homes and violent neighborhoods in the violent music world. It was not unreasonable to think that an executive might get violent. We felt cornered and vulnerable. JL and I had been 100% certain that the executive was going to hit me. It's amazing how skewed your vision can become when you see the present through the lens of your past. It was a very difficult psychological rehabilitation for us to learn how to put down the snow globe. As per my agreement with JL, me and Jeff went to work on our fourth album, which would become Home Base. But Jeff and I were on the TV now, so we were essentially moonlighting from our day jobs to make music. We were used to open-ended creative time. In the past, we block out months to conceive, write, and record, and consume chicken fingers. But now, because of the specific and limited timeframes, we had to be laser focused and razor sharp with every single moment of studio time. To quote Daddy-O, there's no bullshitting when we're on the clock. The result was, as opposed to "and in this corner," for Home Base, we made twice as many songs in half as much time for a quarter of the budget. And the songs were better. Another byproduct of our television success was that we were free from the pressure of needing the record to be a hit. If the album bombed, we would be fine. Our rents and our tax liabilities were getting paid with Bel-Air money. We got to have fun again. It was just me and Jeff being me and Jeff, getting back to what made us great. We were getting back to our home base. It was also the first time we opened up our creative process to new producers and other creative voices. I had been working in Chicago, finishing my vocals on the album with a couple of young Jive Records producers named Hula and Fingers. Jeff was doing the final mixing in New York, and I was booked on a 6 p.m. flight from O'Hare to LAX. Me, Hula, and Fingers had partied hard the night before, celebrating the completion of home base. I had blown my voice out yelling all night in the club. On the way to O'Hare, I stopped by the studio to pick up a couple of CDs of the Sequence album so I could listen on the plane. Hula gave me the CD. I tucked it in my backpack and headed to the door. Fingers called after me. Hey man, there's one more track that we were messing with Jeff. And he said he likes it. He told us to give it to you and see if you wanted to lay something real quick. I was exhausted. My voice was blown out. I was ready to get home to LA, and plus the album was finished. Fingers was holding out a CD with the word Untitled in magic marker across the top. Just seeing the word Untitled was exasperating. Even the thought of having to write a whole new song made my stomach hurt. I was done. Hey, Fingers, I said, I appreciate you, man. Y'all have done great work, but I'm exhausted. I mean, listen to my voice. I couldn't lay down nothing if I wanted to. You would probably have to get Jesus to hand me that CD for me to write another song. The guys laughed, but out of courtesy, I took the CD. I arrived at Chicago O'Hare an hour before my flight to the announcement that flight 1024 to Los Angeles has been delayed 90 minutes. God damn it. Why is it always like that? The more you want to get home, the more delayed your damn flight is. I found a quiet corner, put my headphones on, and decided to listen to Untitled. The track opened with Fingers' voice into a crazy drum drop with a rising crowd cheer. Drums, please. And then a sultry female voice. Summer, summer, summertime, summertime. Time to sit back and unwind. Oh my God. I must have looked crazy in that airport lounge. I had that face that musicians get when a track is banging. It's like you smelling something nasty. My head was about to bop off my shoulders. I quickly grabbed my rhyme book from my backpack, and the next 2 hours was nothing short of divine intervention. I didn't write Summertime as much as I channeled it. That's his moon, Neptune conjunction in Scorpio, moon ruling the third house is writing, and moon and Neptune forming a quincunx with Saturn in Aries. My mind collapsed into the bliss of summertime in Philadelphia. I felt myself floating through my childhood summer memories, and my hand was just along for the ride, trying to keep up. Summertime is the only song I've ever written from beginning straight through to the end and didn't edit or change a single word. The lyrics as they appear on the final cut are exactly as they came through. It was a pure stream of consciousness. I would later learn a term that resonated deeply with my experience at O'Hare that night. Psychography, or automatic writing, is a theoretical psychic ability allowing someone to produce written words without consciously writing. Skeptics call it self-delusion. I call it another Grammy and my first #1 record. Flight 1024 is now boarding. Shit. I knew this song was crazy, and if I didn't record it today, it wasn't going to be on the album. I could hear Quincy in my head. What you gonna do, Philly? Fuck it. I popped up, back in the car, back to the studio. My voice was wrecked. The pitch and tone of voice I was famous for was high, up-tempo, and wrapped in a smile. But every time I reached for that energy in the studio that night, my voice would crack and fail. Hula and Fingers kept telling me, don't worry about it. Just work with what you got. Lay down in that lower register. Give me some Rakim. That was exactly the direction I needed. Rakim was hands down my favorite rapper at the time. So I settled down and decided to play the cards I'd been dealt rather than the cards I wished I had. My vocal delivery on Summertime shocked the hip hop world. It was released on May 20th, 1991. And within a month, it had hit #1 on the Hot R&B, hip hop, and #4 on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. The music video was recorded back home in Philly with me and just real family and friends. Home Base went platinum within 2 months. It won an American Music Award and snatched our second Grammy. Just as a piece of Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince trivia, we boycotted When Parents Just Don't Understand won our first Grammy, and Summertime was nominated against the monster Naughty by Nature hit OPP. and I was positive we were going to lose, so I didn't go. Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince now had 2 Grammys, and I had yet to make an appearance anywhere near the award show. So him winning Grammys, that's very much Chiron, trine, Neptune in his chart right here. Meanwhile, in my other career, I studied my lines obsessively. Obsessively studying his lines. That's that Scorpio moon ruling the 3rd house. In those early days of the Fresh Prince, I was so terrified of failing that I would memorize the entire screenplay, not just my lines, but everybody's. It was the only thing that kept my anxieties at bay. If I was going to lose, it was damn sure going to be somebody else's fault. So him memorizing the entire screenplay, everybody else's lines, including his, that's his moon conjunct Neptune in Scorpio with that moon ruling the 3rd house. I may have overdone it slightly. I was so prepared that I was unconsciously mouthing all the other actors' lines on camera as they said them. Now that right there, that's his moon Neptune conjunction, making a quincunx with his Saturn and Aries, not being able to separate his lines from the lines of others. Fortunately, there's an interesting thing that happens when you watch TV. Your eyes focus on the person who's talking. This is a form of something called inattentional blindness. Daniel Simmons in Smithsonian Magazine describes it like this. This form of invisibility depends not on the limits of the eye, but on the limits of the mind. We consciously see only a small subset of our visual world. And when our attention is focused on one thing, we fail to notice other unexpected things around us, including those we might want to see. A perfect example of this phenomenon is in season 1, episode 5, Homeboy, Sweet Homeboy. What a title. Don Cheadle plays my boy from Philly, Ice Tray. If you look closely, you'll see that I'm mouthing Don's lines. But even though I'm front and center, mouthing away like an idiot, you didn't notice at home because your attention was focused on the actor who was speaking. Inattentive blindness. Feel free to pull up that episode and watch me nincompoop my way through the scene. Karen was nominated to break the embarrassing news to me. Of course, I denied it and was horrified and remained so when I was shown the excruciating evidence. To this day, I cannot bear to watch that episode. All of these world-class stage-trained master thespians and their dumbass rapper is mouthing their words back to them. And the show is named after him. It took me a couple of weeks to break the simian habit. I would be in a scene, damn near biting through my bottom lip, but I got it. There were very few people in my life I wanted to impress more than James Avery. James had been acting longer than I had been alive, and he was my paragon, the pinnacle of dramatic presence. I desperately wanted him to think I was a good actor, but nothing I did impressed James Avery. He played my father figure on the show and slowly assumed the role in real life. He was demanding and always pushing me to master my instrument as an actor. So that's Mercury conjoining Venus, opposing Saturn and Aries, with Mercury ruling that 5th house. 5th house is acting. You could do jokes with your eyes closed, he said. You have that naturally, and it's beautiful to watch. But you have deeper talent in there, he said, tapping on my chest emphatically, that you can't even imagine yet. And you're never going to find it if you don't reach for it. There's a difference between talent and skill. Talent comes from God. You're born with it. Skill comes from sweat and practice and commitment. Don't just skate through this opportunity. Hone your craft. One of the proudest moments of my career was in one of the most famous episodes of The Fresh Prince. Papa's got a brand new excuse. In the show, Will's biological father, Lou, played by Ben Vereen, comes back into his life and spends time with him again. Will is thrilled to have his father back, but Uncle Phil is skeptical. This drives a wedge between Will and Uncle Phil. Will's father, a big rig trucker, invites Will to travel with him over the summer. Will is excited and decides to go against Uncle Phil's urgings. The climax of the episode happens when Will's father comes up with an excuse and cancels the father-son trip and disappears again, leaving Will brokenhearted with Uncle Phil trying to console him. This was the most demanding, dramatic scene for my character of the entire series. It was me going toe-to-toe with James Avery. Master actors revel in the opportunity to go head-to-head in a scene with other masters, but I was not a master. I was a scared little boy in the shadow of a giant. When actors have these types of scenes, you know they're coming for weeks. Everybody else knows it too. The anticipation wreaks havoc on your sleep, on your appetite, on your memory, on your nerves. On set, dramatic scenes have the energy of a prize fight. Cast and crew lean forward in their seats to see if you'll bring it home. But the studio audience has no idea, and you want to shock and surprise them. It was Friday night. The audience was in place, and the episode was going along great. And then the final scene. I had studied day and night. I felt ready, but on the first take, I froze. My mind went blank, and I missed my second line. I was anxious and trying too hard, speaking too fast, stumbling through my words. The director quickly yelled, "Cut," to not blow the surprise for the audience, but I snapped. "Fuck!" I bellowed at the top of my lungs. "Fuck!" The veins in my neck bulging, my fist balled tight. That's that Mars square ascendant. I'm having these angry outbursts. And this is a mutable square, so he is liable to lose it every now and then. "Hey," James yelled, snapping me back to attention. "Settle down," he whispered. Then pointing his index and middle finger to his own eyes, he gave me the universal signal for focus on me. He leaned into my ear. "Use me. Look into my eyes and talk to me." I fell into his gaze, somehow plugging into his power, our stare unbroken until he felt I had been sufficiently fueled. James didn't wait for the director. He called action from the floor. The next take is what happened in the actual episode. "Uncle Phil, I'm sorry. If there was something that I could do." "Will, you know what? You ain't got to do nothing, Uncle Phil. It ain't like I'm still 5 years old, Ain't like I'm going to be sitting up every night asking my mom, where's daddy coming home? Who needs him? Hey, he wasn't there to teach me how to shoot my first basket, but I learned, didn't I? I got pretty damn good at it too, didn't I, Uncle Phil? Got through my first date without him, right? Learned how to drive. I learned how to shave. I learned how to fight without him. I had 14 great birthdays without him. He never even sent me a damn card." Screams towards the empty door. "To hell with him. I ain't need him then, and I don't need him now." "Uncle Phil, Will. No. You know what, Uncle Phil? I'm going to get through college without him. I'm going to get a great job without him. I'm going to marry me a beautiful honey, and I'm going to have me a whole bunch of kids. I'll be a better father than he ever was. And I'm sure as hell don't need him for that, because there ain't a damn thing he could ever teach me about how to love my kids." And after a beat, Will starts crying and says, "How come he didn't want me, man?" Uncle Phil lovingly gathers Will into his arms. The shot slowly pans away on a statue of a father and son Will had purchased as a gift. In the embrace, James Avery whispers in my ear, "Now that's fucking acting." All right, well, that concludes chapter 11. And chapter 11 wasn't too bad. At least we are in the thick of it with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Stay tuned for chapter 12. It's called Desire. And I believe that is when Jada steps into the picture. So hopefully it will be more interesting than chapter 11. But like I said, chapter 11 wasn't too bad at all. I did find it to be interesting. So let me know what you think. Please like and share. Also, if you're new to this channel, subscribe. And if you would like a reading, the link to my website is in the description section. I'll be back with more videos and a live stream dedicated to Pisces season coming up very soon. So stay tuned for that. Peace.